this question that I'm going to do in this video is a really interesting question on basic trigonometry on SOHCAHTOA, and it's framed in a really different way. So what it's about is there's a ladder leaning up against the wall, okay, and it tells you that the ladder is safe to climb when the angle marked x, so this angle down here, is about 70 degrees. And the question says, is the ladder safe to use? Okay. So basically, here's your diagram, and it gives you information. So it tells you the length of the ladder is 10 metres, and it tells you that the distance away from the wall is 3.5 metres. And importantly, you've got that right angle symbol there, which tells you it's a right angle triangle. So the first thing I would do is to draw out the diagram, because there's a lot of detail around that, and I just want a clearer picture. Okay. So I'm going to put on the important information. So we know this is 10 metres and this is 3.5 metres. And to begin with, this is just a normal basic trig question. So you just got to answer it in the normal way. Now, when I answer trig questions, I follow a few key steps. So step 1, I label my diagram. Okay, so by that I mean labelling your hypotenuse, which is identifiable by being the longest side and also opposite the right angle. And then you have the other two sides, which is your opposite and your adjacent. Now those are identifiable based on which angle you're using. So in this case, we're using this angle x here. So the side opposite x is your opposite, and the side next to x is the adjacent, which is what adjacent means. Okay. The next thing that you need to do is you need to choose which formula you're going to use, and then I would write it out as well. You do gain credit for writing out your formula. Now for this particular question, we've been given two sides and it's the angle we're looking for. So the easiest thing to do is to check which of your formulae involve those two sides. So the formula which has the hypotenuse and the adjacent is cos, the cosine formula. So it's cos. Now I always use theta to represent an angle. If you see theta, don't be afraid of it. It's just a Greek letter, and quite often in maths we use it to represent an angle. So cos theta is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. The next step that I always follow is to fill in the information or substitute. Okay, so I'm going to substitute in the information that I've been given in the question. Now theta, like I say, always represents the angle. So in this case I'm going to write cos x, because that's our angle that we've been given, is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Now the adjacent is 3.5 and the hypotenuse is 10. Okay. The next step, and sometimes this is the most difficult part, is to rearrange your formula. Okay, so we need to find x, so we've got to make x the subject of the formula. Now when it's an angle we've been asked to find, that is when you use the cos inverse button, and some people call it cos -1, but it is the inverse of cos, and that's its proper name. So we're going to use that button on our calculator, but I always think it's important to write it down first, because then the more times you write it down, the more likely you are to remember. So we do cos -1, 3.5 over 10. Notice I'm not working that out. I don't need to work it out. Let the calculator do all the hard work for you, which brings me to the fifth step, which is calculator. And what a lot of students do is they tend to go to the calculator too early. If you get all of this written down first, then you're less likely to make a mistake. Okay, now importantly on your calculator, this is a trigonometry question. You must make sure your calculator is in the right mode, otherwise you will lose marks in the exam. So you need to check that your calculator display has a D or a DEG at the top to stand for degrees, because that's what we're using to measure our angle. And if you're not sure how to change it, then check your instruction manual that came with your calculator, or ask one of your teachers. So we literally just type that exactly as it is into our calculator. Now to get cos minus 1, cos inverse, you press the shift button and then the cos button on your calculator, and if you do that you'll get 69.51 degrees, okay, and that's your answer. Now that is finding x, but the question says the ladder is safe to use when the angle marked x is about 70 degrees. So then you've got to decide, is the ladder safe or is it not safe? Okay, so 69.51, is it about 70 degrees? That's what you've got to decide. And then at the end you would need to write a statement saying whether or not you believe the ladder is safe. So if we're going to round that to two significant figures or to the nearest whole number, it would be 70 degrees. So therefore you could argue, yes, the ladder is safe. However, if you're going to climb that, would you want it to be 70 degrees or more? Okay, so either way you've got to decide which way you're going to go, and then you need to write a sentence underneath which says what you think the answer is. And it's really important you do that to finish off.